The death of King Von shocked Chicago. Some mourned his loss, while others accepted it as a natural consequence of his violent upbringing. Given that every gang member in the city knew who he was, it's reasonable to believe that his reputation wasn't well-founded.
Dirk was scared of Von. They knew what type of animal he was before he got out of jail. Like, this dude is a killing. They wanted to be around him. Von got the streets. Dirk ain't got the streets. And then he got all the real members behind Von. Like, all the real, Dirk paying for friends.
King Vol, whose real name was Dine Quan Bennett, became a member of the Black Disciples early on and made both powerful allies and even more fearsome enemies. For what reason was he killed? Discover who fired the shot and the real cause of his death to get the full story. We have to begin at the beginning.
He was a serial killer who bragged about killing people, and he professed and confessed to be a demon.
He was that, bro. If he wanted you out of there, he'll go do it himself on beat by himself.
Von gave me a lot of passes. He could have killed me a couple times.
I was happy as hell when I found out Von was dead. I cooked for the whole day.
I was relieved for the community, man. Because he was over there torturing them guys, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, man.
Something's wrong with him. That's not human, man. You're not regular, man. He was a devil, man.
How are you rich and you're robbing people? You robbing producers. You robbing rappers. You got money.
So from what I hear, that documentary proves everything to be true. He is a serial killer, and he was a demon in human form.
V was raised in the notoriously violent neighborhood of All Block with his mother and 6 half-siblings. His father, Silk, a prominent gang member, was shot and killed in a failed heroin trade when he was 11 years old. Von admitted that he experienced sleeplessness when his father passed away, a painful incident that profoundly affected the way he saw the world. In his songs, Von frequently mentioned Silk, paying tribute to him with lyrics that would shout out his name and usually conclude with rest in peace.
Can I say I was kind of happy? No, seriously, I was though. It's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, he did. But I was happy as hell when I found out Von was dead. I cooked for the whole day.
Even though the incident happened in 2005, V continued to talk about his father till the day of his passing. His life's decisions and trajectory were influenced by the pain and anguish he carried from a young age. Yet the absence of his father did not mean that he lacked a support system. Because his mother's home was located at the junction of 64th Street and Martin Luther King Drive, which is often associated with the Black Disciples, close to 2 rap artists who were just starting out, Lil Durk and Chief Keef.
King Von, he was the realest person I had in the industry. He used to be on house arrest. I'm coming to his house, I'm pulling up. They'll give me what I need. We kick it, chill, play 2K, whatever, to make him feel good while he was on house arrest, because he never liked being on house arrest. Whenever I hit him, it was never like, all right, get what I'm getting and leave. I actually kicked it with bro and spent time with bro.
Who would eventually have an impact on Chicago's drill music genre. His connections with the Black Disciples and his early exposure to street life equipped him for his destiny. Growing up together, V and Little were childhood friends who influenced each other's music and supported one another while living on the streets. Beyond just their shared love of music, Van became one of Chicago's most feared shooters. Vol and Lil Durk were so tight that several gangs avoided confrontation with him. Vol often referred to himself as the grandchild of King David, the Black Disciples founder and activist. According to Van, this moniker caused disagreement within the gang. Some members welcomed it while serving time for many charges, while others considered it as a sign of contempt to the founder. He was convinced that he was destined for something greater when other inmates frequently commented that he reminded them of King David, but instead of avoiding the streets, he leaned closer to them. His life changed when he lost his father in the 2005 shooting, which led him onto a violent and criminal road that solidified his place on the streets. Between 2008 and 2009, V relocated to a region known as. He felt like he fit in the weak city and made more acquaintances with local gang members, but he had no idea what kind of life he was going into. During this period, he became acquainted with a number of people, including along with changing schools. Van encountered individuals from many backgrounds at Hyde Park Academy, such as LBTR Roy, Bigga Trey 5 White Amona, Boss Toop and others whose names would later be famous in the annals of Chicago gangs. As time went on, the altercations he had at school were merely the start of his notoriety. He was already gathering enemies, and the course his life was heading meant that these disputes would only worsen. But even that was as careless as his subsequent action, which was to carry guns to school so he could flaunt them to his peers. Lil Mark and FBG Duck were among the first persons he met at the rival Gangster Disciple stage. Remarkably, he was never caught and sent directly to prison. Instead, in January 2011, when he was 16, he was placed in juvenile detention for armed robbery. It was clear from this that his primary focus was not education. He took several classes at South and obtained his GED while he was in prison. After he was freed, Suburban College, his life took a drastic turn 2 years later when he was arrested for unlawfully having a handgun at the age of 18. After a while, he dropped out of college and exhibited no desire to live a normal life. Although he was tried for 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder in July 2014, when he was just 19 years old, this was just the beginning of his evolving. Vaughn was from O Block, and STL-EBT, also called Tool, was one of his primary opposing gangs. He challenged someone to stop him and tweeted at them, threatening to immediately shut down the group. That evening, though, a member of STL-EB was spotted strolling with pals and chatting with a girl while Vaughn was with Roy and JNAA. Vaughn claimed that it had been a while since he had dumped a body, pierced Modell's chest with multiple rounds. Even when Modell's cousin tried to protect him, Vaughn, who was only 18 but already vicious enough, continued shooting, paralyzing Modell's cousin. Vaughn was clearly completely devoted to O Block and would kill anyone who was in his way. His aggressive instincts were not satisfied by killing Modell, despite what one may have assumed. Not 3. Many people in Chicago believe that Vaughn or another member of the O Block was on Vaughn's hit list, despite the fact that some people believe it only contained Doc and Mel. Vaughn attacked again a few weeks later, this time without T.R. Roy, who was trying to catch up. Vaughn saw this as a chance to outdo his closest partner, T. Roy, who was supposedly behind the killings of Dale from STL, Doc from EBT, and Dirty Reed from Dro City, by amassing additional bodies. One member, Dale Doc as usual, Vaughn tweeted that he was with La Capone, J Money, and Big A an hour before he made his move. Capone was a member of the 600, but his gang had a range of connections. The deaths of Dirty Real and Modell, both significant players in their respective gangs, garnered national attention in Chicago. Although their families were distraught, Vaughn saw it as just another violent step in his journey. Gerald City's P5 Crack was his next target. The 4 of them assaulted P5 as he attempted to flee, and J Money shot him in the back, causing him to collapse. Vaughn stood over his body and shot him multiple times in the face before they left the site. Because P5 was killed early in the morning, Vaughn claimed on Twitter that the early bird catches the worm. Vaughn had already ridiculed his victim once more by the time P5 was pronounced dead on the 6200 block of South Ute Avenue. Markman in Tool and Garrow City, but he wasn't done yet. Taking murder as an obsession, he returned his ATS to style EBT the following month. Vaughn, who felt untouchable by other gangs and police enforcement, started calling himself the captain of the drill team. He frequently boasted on social media that he would never be caught red-handed and that he would never snitch even if he were. Soon after, Vaughn and T. Roy got back together, this time setting up a postal under Tool, who had many O Block members waiting for him at the rendezvous on November 7th while pretending to sell him a rifle. Like many of these other targets, he attempted to escape immediately but was unsuccessful. Roy and Vaughn later tweeted the hashtag Menown Hours after Bostill was removed. A week after Bull's passing, Vaughn collected a group of 600 members, including Bite Down, Blow His, and someone else, and targeted someone from T-City. They caught a faction off guard. Vaughn boasted about his growing list of GDs that he had purportedly removed, using the fact that 32-year-old Baby James had shot him in the shoulder and chest as leverage. Ironically, none of the other homicides were looked into, and Vaughn was only detained on a gun charge in spite of all of these alleged killings. He became untouchable in the eyes of the public, but some also started to speculate that he had gotten away with killing 5 people. There were rumors that he might continue collaborating with the Chicago police even after he had been incarcerated for 2 years. The penalty for being a snitch is death, and as accusations against Vaughn's actions increased, he became an even more after furious disputes with other gangs broke out online. Vaughn attempted to patch things up with members of 051 Young Money, a notorious gang in the city. This was a dangerous action, especially in light of Melly from 051 Young. Many believed the rivalry would escalate into a full-scale conflict because money was one of the most feared shooters in Chicago at the time. However, Mel's reputation had made him one of the most respected people in the city, so when Al Capone was assassinated, every gang turned to 051 Young Money. Tensions escalated when it was revealed that 051 was responsible for late Capone's murder and O-Block was ready for reprisals. The situation was further exacerbated by the fact that Lil Mark's March 2014 release of No Competition, a direct jab at O-Block and 600, included a remix of Lil Durk's Competition that deviated from his own rhythm. Lil Mark publicly denigrated O-Block, referring to himself as a Black Disciples killer. BDK, just 72 hours after releasing No Competition. He was the biggest target in Chicago because of his boldness, and after 2 failed attempts, the streets wanted him silenced for good. March 28, 2014, at 1:30 p.m. Lil Mark was waiting for a bus outside 415 E 51st Street east of King Drive, which is perilously close to O-Block territory, when a silver minivan showed up. Gunshots sounded out a few seconds later, and Lil Mark was dead by the time the dust settled. Not many were surprised when King Vol appeared to tweet about the murder. At the time, in addition to whacking an asterisk on Street Lawrence and chilling on 600 asterisk, he also tweeted about shooting a target in the face to ensure a quick death. Vaughn, who was just released from house arrest after being found guilty of possessing firearms, made it clear that he intended to return to his business as soon as the ankle monitor was taken off. He even claimed that he wanted to test out a new gun on a drive-by vehicle after buying it. Liv shared information about getting stuck in traffic and picking up D Rose before the shooting on social media throughout the event, serving as yet another reminder that anyone who ignored O-Block would not be safe. D Rose and King Von discussed the involvement of another O-Block member on Twitter after the shooting. Later, the abandoned and torched minivan that was involved in Lil Mark's murder was found on the 3700 block of South Ellis Avenue. The fire completely obliterated any DNA evidence that could have linked the shooters. To ridicule Lil Mark V even went so far as to make fun of Lil Mark's younger brother, Tuka. Along with musicians such as Lil Durk, Tuka remains one of the most hated figures in drill history. His frequent appearances in Chief Keef's and King Von's songs turned him from a lost young man into a symbol of gang enmity. Some saw this as the height of V's nasty reputation, while others saw it as simply another chapter in his gruesome. Was the self-proclaimed descendant of King David going to make even more enemies, or was his history finally over? They were ready to retaliate after 051 Young Money had already lost Tuka and Lil MK. One of the GDs, Gaka Barnes, also known as Kai, was shot and killed on April 11, 2014, by a masked gunman wearing blue jeans and a gray sweatshirt. Despite an eyewitness identifying King Va as the suspect, authorities quickly placed the blame on him and held him for questioning. Gunman, there was no concrete evidence to convict him, conflicting testimonies, and inadequate forensic evidence. Ron was able to walk again. After losing Taquan Taylor, a GD who was killed in 2012, Kai, his younger sister, turned into one of Chicago's most feared female shooters. Although Kai had been involved in multiple shootings and regularly shared her location on social media to taunt rival gangs, her mother mistakenly believed that she was merely a student trying to avoid problems. After following her around to make sure she wasn't afraid, O-Block members King Val and T. Roy finally found an opening. A car pulled up, and VTR Roy and Big Ed got inside while Kai and FBG Buddha were out on the street. They fired without hesitation, hitting Kai 9 times. In his OTF movement, King Val was strongly tied with Lil Durk, but Quando Rondo was aligned with NBA Youngboy. Although their personal conflict wasn't significant, what made things more tense was the small boy was a direct target in the developing hostility between Durk and Val, who was his closest ally and stood by him during every fight. Feuding fans who saw photos of V with the young boy's ex-girlfriend, Yana, fueled speculations that the two were more than simply making music, even though Van denied any deeper involvement. V even admitted in one video that he didn't genuinely have a grudge with. The little child would often avoid answering questions about his role in the dispute by claiming that when God decides it's time, it's time. He said that the feud began on Twitter, when threats were made and things escalated, supposedly even implicating Lil Reese, but he never gave a clear explanation. Attempting to hit V where the agony was greatest, V's death dealt a serious blow to Lil Durk and the OTF label as a whole. His career was simply destroyed, and he and Durk may have become one of the most important players in the drill movement if he had survived. But the drill movement and its history are so rich because so much more happened behind the scenes. Some believe that V's killer, Lil Tim, was simply luckier than Von's former competitors. Influential people in the rap scene, but V abruptly died after years of tinkering with the flames. If V were still alive, many people still ponder what the Chicago drill scene might look like today. Please remember to like and subscribe, watch more of the channel's material, and turn on notifications if you enjoyed this video so you don't miss any of the most recent hip-hop news.